Hello, my name is George. This is GLLR Cars. Today, we're talking insurance claims. When it comes to an insurance claim related to your car, there's different types of incidents, if you want to call it incidents. There's your common accident. There is uh, things related to nature, weather-related events. There is theft. There's so many different type of incidents that could happen. So the ones that I'm going to focus on today are the ones related to just weather-related events, and these are two different cases that happened to me um, recently, within the last 6 months or so. And one is related to a hail damage. It was a hailstorm here in Texas in the spring, and it affected two of the cars in the fleet. And there was another one related most recently to a rock chip. In fact, this very car here, on the last video, I was talking about a rock chip, or a rock that basically chipped the front windshield. It was actually right around this area here, and since then that windshield has been replaced. So I get to talk a little bit about that story, and the idea behind it is what, how it works, what you should be able to do, what you should avoid, just general tips that you can learn from the experience of having gone through a couple of these. Uh, these are the ones that we don't expect. These are the ones that you haven't done anything wrong, and for the most part, and I'm trying to think here, actually this is true. The insurance company cannot raise your rates on any weather-related event when that weather-related event occurs. What I mean with that is, if you live in an area and you're paying a certain rate for insurance and you have not changed your car, you have not done anything, but you do have a claim because of a weather-related event, then your premium should not go up at all. And having said that, insurances never lose money, right? If you look at the biggest buildings in most downtowns, you could probably see that a few of those are the names of insurance companies. That's a good way to gauge that these companies are doing pretty well. Well, they do well because what they do is they do demographic analysis of areas that are prone to certain types of disasters, certain types of weather events, and the rates are already including that risk for them. So the insurance world is very profitable. Make no mistake that it is still very competitive world. There is so much money to be made in the insurance world that if you think about most commercials related to insurance, you could probably think about half a dozen names, maybe more. And there are always a lot of insurance related commercials because they want your business and they know that is good business. What can we do? Shop around, make sure that we can always look in the best interest of ourselves, because no matter how much the insurance companies claim that they're in your best interest, they're not. They're in the interest of their own bank accounts, making sure that their profits and their revenues keep growing. That's what it is for most companies. Having said that, not everybody is a cynic. Obviously, there's good people out there that do want to make sure that they do provide a good customer experience, but in the end, a company needs to make money. That's how the company survives. So I'm going to tell you a story about an insurance claim. This is a case of insurance claim related to hail damage. So here in Texas, in North Texas, the early spring of this year, sorry, it was around March or so, there was a hailstorm that hit many cars, and whether you were caught driving around or you were not parked undercover or in the garage, many cars got pretty much hammered. There were some pretty golf-size hail that hit the many parts of the city. So what would come next is the typical insurance claim. So the first recommendation that I have related to an insurance claim is make sure that you make the insurance claim as soon as possible. Make sure that you inspect the damage. Like as soon as the hail took place, went out there and took a look at, in this case, 2 of the cars in the fleet were impacted. Went and took a quick look at the cars that were exposed and were hit, and try to just do a once over, even though none of us are experts, just to see what's obvious to the eye. And call the insurance. I think it was a Sunday or a Saturday. It wasn't a weekend. But when it comes to claims, they are available 24/7. So don't wait for a Monday to make that phone call. Call immediately. So make that call that Saturday or that Sunday, whenever it was, and they immediately give you a claim number. They immediately try to get you scheduled so that your car would be inspected. And because this is it's classified as a act of God event or a national disaster event. Not national disaster, just a weather event. Many people are affected at once, therefore what they do is they'll send an adjuster, and that adjuster, rather than going from house to house and from car to car, they'll send them to a nearby collision center or car shop that is authorized to do those type of services, simply because they have the infrastructure to do the analysis. So basically what it looks like is they'll tell you go on the specific date, there'll be cars lined up, all your different neighbors and folks that live nearby you would have gone on those given dates. They give it a once over, they talk to you, they say what they see, what they don't see, what's covered, what's not covered. I'll give you an example. There was I think there was like a bent on one of the frames of the car that was prior to that, and it was, I think it might have been from either a bent from a rock or something of that nature that was different from when ice hits it, and they're able to say, yeah, this is the difference. They're the experts, like, sure, so this is what it is. And what they do is they write up an assessment of the damage, and this is independent of what shop you use, even though it does take place on one of these collision center shops. So they go out there and give you that piece of paper, then you go back, and then it's your responsibility to schedule it with the shop of your choice. Here's where you have the power to go to a place that's reliable, that will do good work, that will give you a good warranty for the work. And I'll get into that later, but I took the 2 different cars to 2 different places, and that's how I knew which one was better than the other. All the places in my suburb were pretty crowded, they were pretty packed, so they just had too many people in line. I was not the first one to sign up to have the work done. I am the type who needs to analyze the paperwork, ask many questions, call the insurance back, see what any term or any word means in the insurance world, etc. So obviously I was not the first one out of the gate to get the work done. I was one of the first ones out of the gate to make the claim, but that means nothing when it comes to getting the work done. So when it was time to get the work done, I felt that if I used a different suburb within the North Texas area that was not affected, maybe the waiting time would not be as bad. And lo and behold, that was the case. And go ahead and took it to 2 different places, and that's how I learned that, you know, some places they're a lot more diligent than others, and others they're a little bit more careless. The good news about the place that was not as good, that's the place where I took my truck, my Ford F-150. They do have a warranty for as long as you own your vehicle of fixing anything that needs to be fixed, if anything was not done right. And I ended up taking it 3 times back because the liner that keeps the cloth on the ceiling was not very well glued, and a few times it came off, and I had to take it back, and they finally had a third-party company come in and do it because it was costing them money. It was costing me an inconvenience and not a happy customer every time I see this thing coming off. So the warranty that they have for the lifetime of the ownership of the vehicle was important to me, because right now it looks good, right now it's holding up, but ask me again in a year, ask me again in 2 years, or maybe even 3 months. We don't know how long it's going to hold up, and that's the case with that right now. One thing that I didn't mention is the total amount that the insurance covers. Well, the way that insurances are structured may be the same based on individual's policy. The way that my policy was set up was so that I would pay a deductible, and the maximum amount would be equal to or less than the total value of the total replacement value of the vehicle. So if there's enough damage that it costs more to replace the car, that it costs more to fix it than to replace the car, they just basically in their books they total it, and then they just issue you a check. So that obviously that wasn't nowhere near the case with the cars. But what that also means is that when the shop started working on it, they if they discover that there's additional work, whether it's labor or parts, to do something that maybe was not initially seen by the insurance company, they'll normally go ahead and call back the insurance company and file like I don't know what they call it. I think it's an amendment or a supplement. I think that's the word they use, a supplement to the initial one. The good news is, as the car owner and policy holder, none of us need to be involved of any of that. That's between the collision center and the insurance company. So they actually mentioned to me that it is quite common for supplements to be filed, because insurance always try to go as low as possible, and that does not surprise me. Insurance will try to go as low as they can for a couple of reasons. Number one is because they may end up saving money. They try to lowball it as much as possible, knowing that not everybody is going to get their car fixed, and they may want to just pocket that money. What you should do, and you should never pocket that money, you should go ahead and take it to a collision center, have them do the work, give them that money and whatever supplements they receive, and only be responsible for the deductible. Always fix your car. Don't say, I'll do it later, I need the money now. Obviously, there may be situations where some of you may be in a bind and don't have the money for a deductible, and you're going through some hard times, and that check may be coming in at a good time. I cannot speak for that, only that if you do have the choice, have your car fixed. So those supplements are done, they get the extra work done. I've never heard of a case where the insurance has denied a supplement, so long as the collision center is a reputable collision center. If it's a place that, some of these places are national and that they have multiple branches throughout the city and in many states. Some of them may be slightly smaller shops, but they are well recommended, and they may have a very good reputation within the city. That's one of those things that at the beginning is a little bit of a roll of the dice, unless you know some people that could recommend some places like that. But nonetheless, it's something that you always need to be careful about. If they do the supplements, they get the funds to do the extra work, then your car is going to be fixed the way that it needs to be fixed, so it looks like it did before it had the hail damage in this case. The other insurance case that I wanted to talk about is the more recent one that I had related to the rock chip that cracked the glass on this very car, on the BMW 550. And I've had one of these happen in the past, and it happened in a truck that I used to own a few years back. It was handled differently in that other case, in that they sent someone out to the house and they worked on it and replaced the windshield right there in my driveway. In this case, I didn't know how they would operate, so the insurance that I have now is different than I had when I was using the insurance for the hail story that I mentioned. And not because of the hail issue I changed insurance companies. In fact, I had changed them before we had the hail incident in the spring of 2019.
it just had not taken effect. So the claim is done with the insurance company that is currently in effect. So I had already selected a different provider, and this was strictly based on the service and the price. I was able to get a combination of equal service at least and better price, so for me it was a no-brainer to change insurance company. So long story short, I'm dealing with a different insurance company here for the rock chip, and the way that they handle it is they told me, okay, based on what you're telling me, the description that you're giving me, it looks like it needs to be replaced. So the way that it works is you have a deductible that is $100, and then we'll just go ahead and take it to the place of your choice, and we'll take care of it. That's how it was pitched to me. It turns out that it is not a blank check, obviously. No insurance is going to have a blank check. Just wherever you want to go, and they'll do it, and you're just responsible for the deductible. It doesn't work that way. They did have a maximum amount. I don't know what that amount was, and the reason I know there was a maximum amount is because they do have preferred places that they work with to get their glass work done, and then some that are not preferred, sort of like in the insurance and the health insurance world, the in-network and out-of-network, for especially like HMOs. There's a whole different topic, but basically these are the ones that are giving the insurance company the discounts, so they get the volume of business. However, by law, they cannot say use this or that provider or the shop that will change your windshield. By law, they're not allowed to. All they said to me was go to the one of your choice. However, there are some that we work with that we'd be glad to give you the name if you asked us. Well, I wasn't going to have any of that. I started by going to the most expensive place, which was the BMW dealership. Got a quote there, and they told me that the car, that the way that they work, the insurance doesn't work directly with them, so I will have to pay them out of pocket, and then I will have to go out and seek reimbursement with the company. My advice to all of you is that's a big no-no. Never be out of pocket on something that it is your money that you're trying to get back. It should always be the insurance money that should be disputed, and not your own money that now you're trying to get a reimbursement on. So when I heard that, that was a definite no-no. The price from the dealership was a little bit over $2,500 to get the windshield replaced, and there's a little bit more work that goes into it. There's not just the components that go into replacing the windshield, but like for instance, this BMW has right behind the rear view mirror a camera that looks at the lane departure and does lane departure warnings, etc. So that needs to be recalibrated when the glass is replaced. So I went to another place. It turns out that this place was recommended to me by a few other places, including the dealership, when I was thinking about, well, I don't think that I want to be out of pocket $2,500 while I wait for a reimbursement from the insurance company that may or may not come to cover 100% of that minus the deductible. So what I did is I went to this other place and checked their credentials, checked their reviews, spoke with them about warranty, and the part that sold me on it was, again, the lifetime warranty for the ownership of the car. So long as I own the car, if there's a leak, if there is something that the camera seems like it's not calibrated on the lane departure or whatever, I can go back and they'll take care of it for free. So took it to this place. Within a week, I was able to book it, and they serviced it that same afternoon. I had it back. They were open pretty late until 8 p.m. Picked it up that evening. So it was very painless. All I had to pay was the $100 deductible, and it was done. So when I did my last video that I was showing you the crack in the windshield, and I had only about 3 days prior to my appointment there, that same evening that windshield had been already replaced. And the only thing that they tell you is that when you do a windshield replacement, don't use any water pressure washers to wash your car, because it needs to set in. It needs to dry up and make sure that it completely seals what would be any possible water leaks. So I have not washed the car. The car is a little bit dirty. It's been 4 days already, and they tell me 4 days, but I like to be cautious and give it an extra day or so, so that it doesn't hurt to just wait a little bit longer. So I talked about, by the way, excuse the fact that this car is very dirty, and talked about earlier that I'm not allowed to wash it, or I am recommended not to wash it for 4 days after they replaced that front windshield. And it is actually day 4 today. I'm going to wait one more day. I'm going to wait until 5, maybe even 6 days. It's not going to hurt anyone. Just to be cautious, just to make sure that I'm not going to just ruin the work that they did on that windshield glass, and where it hasn't sealed completely and it could leak. So same thing happens like when you get your windows tinted and they say, no, don't roll them down for 3 days. I usually wait 4 or 5 just to be sure. And I recommend you do the same. Again, everyone is unique, but it's just to be absolutely cautious. So I talked about those 2 examples about, the case with the hail. This was not one of the cars that was affected by the hail. This was the one affected by the rock chip. With the hail, it was my Ford F-150, and it was a car that was hammered pretty bad. And then the Ford Fusion was hammered pretty bad as well. The good news is, after it was all said and done, the cars were better because of it. They look brand new. In the case of the paint work, even though they have to match it, they're not going to paint the entire vehicle, but the affected areas, they have to match it. It came out to look pretty good. It actually kind of revives the car once they need to do that type of work. But anyways, after going through those experiences, being able to share with you the fact that, if I were to summarize what are the things that need to be done, go ahead and make the claim as soon as possible. Know exactly when it happened, the date that it happened. Do a walkthrough, and just try to have a sense of what were the affected areas. I guarantee you that when you take it to a shop, they're going to find more that you would have missed. We're not experts on that, but do just a glance of what areas were impacted. Make the claim as soon as possible. Just call their toll-free number. It's 24/7. And then shop around very carefully for the shop that you're going to use. In particular, ones that has a good warranty, and one that is not so incredibly backed up. They're not going to see your car for months. That doesn't help anybody. So if you need to go out of your area to find a shop that is not in the area that you live, simply because they did not have hail or some kind of weather event that would have had damage to your car, at least you'll be one of the first few in line. And then the service part of it is important. If they're willing to see you and fix any little thing that you find out is wrong, then go ahead and do it as soon as possible. Go and let them know. Be absolutely picky about your car, because it is your car and it is the one that you will be driving and not them. So if there's any little thing, just make sure you let them know. When you get the car back, look at not just everything that was fixed, look at everything that would have been impacted. I'll give you another example. When my F-150 was fixed, everything looked good, but I noticed that there were some fingerprint marks on the sealing liner from somebody who had not washed their hands, or they didn't wear gloves. Whatever it was, they touched it, and it was the interior of that car is similar to the interior in this car that is a light color. This one's nearly white. The F-150 is like a light beige color. And you could see those fingerprints up there in the ceiling, and they took care of it. They went ahead and cleaned it out. They washed it out. So just be very picky about it. And if you do things right and you minimize the pain that it takes to go through one of these situations, other than that, there's no other way of avoiding them. These weather events happen whether or not you park your car in the garage. You could be caught outside. Many people try to park under a bridge. We cannot live in fear. It just happens when it happens. Hail has only happened to my car once, ever. And rock chips, twice. And that second time was just a few weeks ago. Got it done just last week. So if it's going to happen, just accept it.
and know that your car will be fixed if you have good insurance. My name is George. This is GLLR Cars. And as always, drive safe.